What's up, peeps?
Where's Papiga?
I think Sloan took her to the dog park or him, whatever. Alright, I want to show you guys, if nobody's watching, but you know what I'm saying. I'm in the Fusion page, and there's a cool tool under Paint. We go under the tools here, or under modifiers. Right under the apply control, we have this barbed wire looking thing. It's pretty cool. Now what you can do is click on your paint node and choose this polyline, and you essentially trace out the line you're looking to take out here. And I mean, check that out. If we go to media out, pretty much disappears. Now you have to track it, and that's the part where I'm having some issues is with the tracking. So I did want to show you guys with this next shot here from Quentin Tarantino's movie Death Proof. I pretty much did the same thing, and it worked pretty smooth, man. So even smoother than the one I did the other day, where yeah, we get a little blurring here, but the skewing is quite a bit less, and even this little spot behind her nose is less noticeable. So with these paint controls, it's a little bit different versus that plug-in. Here we have like angle, distance, and we do have a couple different types of blends. We have a crossfade and an edge blend. So if we look at the crossfade, it changes the look. You kind of get more of a skew here. So this might work if we change distance or angle. So it's kind of unique how this one works. Let's go ahead and set it back to default, and then maybe adjust the angle. You can see it kind of ripples it. So it's a little strange on the skewing. Let's go ahead and put everything at default. Then we have black edges or duplicate. And then there is some controls for your brush softness and size. That still does work. So essentially on this paint node here, I still use the polyline. Sometimes it goes away, so let me see if I can select all in here. Oops, hang on. Grab our selector tool here. So it's one singular line across here, and then if I click off of that and move the size around, you can see it just starts to cover it. So here's our original. We'll just kind of ease it in till the size gets a little bigger, and then we can match the softness here. So you can add the polyline and then adjust all this after the fact. And between the size, softness, and the distance and angle, it works pretty well. So let's bring this in a little more. And let me mess with the softness of hair. And then let's try distance. Now this one's, it's sort of picky, and then you've got that weird angle, so let's adjust the angle a little bit. And maybe we'll go a little bigger, and then go with some softness, like a smaller softness. Let's bring it down. That's pretty good. I can even live with this here, like maybe change the distance. Like I don't want to get it too big where it's skewing too much, but that's almost livable. Maybe bring the size down, and then we could also change the brush style. I don't know. But I ended up liking this result. As far as the overall, it's a little smoother. And that's all on this little wire tool. Pretty cool. I'll mess with the bias a little. Oh yeah. Maybe split the difference there, mess with the noise. So I know this is supposed to be for like wire removal. Let's try black edges here. Or even edge blend. Yeah. I mean, look at that. That's pretty smooth. So let's go angle back to 90. I mean, I'd be down for that. Maybe increase the softness. So here's all the way down, like to 0. And then we're looking at this hard edge right by her nose. So we'll just start bringing this up until it eases. Maybe right about there. And that's pretty solid. Anyway, I was going to make a video on this. If you guys want me to make a more in-depth video on this, I'm trying to do it with this bird shot, but let me see. All right, let's go back to that other shot and we'll just try it. So let's go back to clips, and I'm gonna go here, and let's just examine it with everything off. It's just a shot of some birds on a wire. They do move around a little bit, and so I was just gonna try to remove that. I did stabilize this shot here. Let me move that out of the way. And just did that under stabilization and hit perspective. So let's go back in here. I'm going to reset this paint node. I've tried tracking it several times, different ways, using the IntelliTrack, using the regular tracker, the planar tracker. It's just not doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and add another paint node, select media in, and I'm going to hit this paint. So here's our default setup. And you don't even have to choose your apply mode. You can actually go straight to the polyline stroke. Although I did see somebody do it with a regular paint, but of course it's a little wobbly as you paint. So this line factor was nice for covering distances. So, and you can sort of like tighten it up. So let's do just a default stroke here. You can see how big that is. So if we go under brush controls, this is still active. You can really go like pretty tight and even bring the softness way down, so it's like a harder edge. And back up, hang on. Something like that. You'd even change the color if you want. Okay, so if we didn't like that, we can redo that, and then actually want to delete this, so we'll click that point and hit delete, and delete this one. So, and that one too. So I'll start off screen. We're still on poly, and now our line should be tight. Oh, it didn't do it. Okay. So let's bring the softness. Yeah, we'll go pretty hard on that, and then come down. We'd even change the opacity if we wanted to sort of really see where our line is. So here already, we can continue along here, but if we want to start and just get this arc going, there's a tangent right here. Or if we wanted to go back over here, this is the problem, sometimes it closes, so you got to be pretty particular about where you're clicking your mouse. In fact, that one closed already. So here we can actually click here and continue. See, it's acting weird again. Hang on. I'm telling you. I'm going to delete it and start over. I've tried this a few times. So let's go poly. We'll do like a rough job at first here. As long as our cursor crosshair is sitting basically in the middle of our wire here, right? That's about what we're looking for. Hang on, I gotta answer an email here. Grab here. Bear with me, peeps. If anybody's watching, I don't even think so. All right. So we have our line here. It's pretty fat and it goes off screen. And now we can adjust the brush sizes and stuff like that. So if we click in here, I'm going to fit screen with Command F. Now we're going to look, obviously we're covering way too much, so we can bring our size way down. And I want it to be big enough to handle this arc. And then soft. But what we really want to pay attention to is when we hit this wire removal. So right now it's just a polyline with the default brush size attribute. So I'm going to hit this little barbed wire icon, just says wire removal. And then let's zoom in a little bit because this is where the magic happens. It's pretty cool. So I'll hit barbed wire. And obviously we can see the tool, but there's the difference from here to there. So now we can manipulate where it's sitting, and now you can see if we move softness and things like that, what it's doing. Obviously don't want to be chopping through the bird here. So we can get in here, and as long as we grab a point, we can kind of come down. And here's where if we really tighten up our size, we can like really fine tune where the line sits. And of course, I'll probably go back to the start here. And maybe I have something off. So essentially, while you're on the paint tool, you're inside this area. As long as you hover over one of your line tangents, you can reshape it. If you grab anywhere else, it's going to try to like connect them together because it wants a closed window. Now, you might be asking, why don't I just do that? I tried that, but every time I try to like make a closed loop or maybe a similar shape, it gets really hard to control. So here I'm dialing in the tangent just to get this first arc out of the way. I could even use one here, so if I want, I can shift click to add. And see, sometimes it goes away. It's a real pain. So I'm going to go shift A, or actually that shows the alpha. Zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to drag off screen and kind of highlight, like click and drag, and the tool comes back. So now you can see I can go into this tangent, kind of move it. So it's not like you have to have 100% accuracy right off the bat. But when it comes to tracking it or refining it, since it's not a closed shape, it's harder to pull in because it wants you to continue the shape all the way around it, which I've done it, but it looked weird where the birds are. So now we sort of refined where this line is sitting, and we will go back and increase to see what it's going to look like. So here's sort of our finished product on media out. We're looking at media out. I'm still on my paint control over here, so let's click up size maybe and soft. And here's where distance comes into play, because obviously we don't want to chop the birds where their tail is. So distance, you can bring it down and check that out. It's pretty great about leaving this intact and getting this line. So if we shut this on and off here, if I click on paint, so we got a little bit of oddness here, and this is where our softness and the size can come in a little. And having an external monitor, of course, so I'm trying to keep an eye on this little line here. I mean, it does a pretty great job with this, leaving the birds intact. So there it is. If we jump over to the edit page here and full screen it, that's not too shabby. I mean, it looks weird having birds floating, but this was simply a concept of, can you do this? So now the tracking part. Let's go over to Fusion one more time. I'm going to get rid of clips down here. If we want to track this thing, I wish it was smoother, and maybe I'll stumble upon a better way to do it. I've looked at making a planar tracker and the transform, IntelliTrack, regular tracker, feeding it in, changing the expression. Just nothing was seeming to give me a good result. So what I'm going to do is go down to stroke controls here. We do have center and X. You can right click here and you could say modify with, and then choose a tracker, which then gives you the option to like track, but it still just isn't doing it. So what you can do is within paint still click on your modifiers, and you're going to have an option to animate your polyline. So let me find where that is. Okay, yeah, right here at the very bottom. I guess I just, with that open, it doesn't show it for some reason. But it's right here under stroke controls. You have right click here for shape animation. I thought it showed it to you all the time, but I guess with apply controls it goes away. So anyway, right click here for shape animation. Now we're at the end of the shot, of course, so we can right click and click on animate. So that's from this grayed out piece of text here or whatever. You got to right click it, choose animate, and then you can see the keyframe diamond activates. So now it's recording where this position is. So once again, you gotta like shift click. See what I did there? You gotta shift. We go back to the selection tool, and then it goes away. It's a little confusing. So now I'm gonna shift and drag. Now I got access to this again, and the keyframes are in position. So what I'm gonna do is use my jog wheel and just go a couple frames back, which it's sort of sensitive on showing a real-time display here. So I've gone back a couple frames, unless it's not working, but because I can click a few frames. So let's open our keyframe editor, and underneath our polyline stroke we should be able to select that. And even though we right clicked to add a keyframe, now it's gone for some reason. So let's go back to the end, which I believe is where we were at. Maybe it was the beginning. There we go. Okay. So I don't see a keyframe here, although I see the little red diamond. Let's open the spline editor. Maybe that'll show it if we show polyline. Here's our keyframe. Okay, so we're going to need to go forward because we're on frame 242. So we like where this is because we keyframed it with this animation. We've selected it. And let's just do it again. I'm going to click that arrow and click off the screen here, drag to get the box. Bam, we got the whole thing. And then I'm going to move forward a few frames. Now, if you've selected in here, it actually moves your polyline. So you got to move back down to your playhead and then jump ahead a few. Right? And I'm going to use my external monitor. So now this thing's skewed out of place, right? So you think we could grab this thing here? Like that would be nice, but it just doesn't want to let me. Keeps asking to add this. So here we go. Shift click to get rid of that little crosshair, otherwise it's going to add another connection here. So we're in here, we're going to command, and then I can move this into place here. Keep an eye on my external monitor just to see, okay, right about there, looks pretty good. I'm gonna let go. Click back down here. I don't know if it made a keyframe because I'm not seeing it, so I'm gonna add a keyframe myself right here. Now we can see there's a movement. So if we go through here, it still did a crappy job. So maybe if I go back to this first keyframe with bracket, I mean, see, it's just horrible, bro. I don't know what to say. I've tracked a million other things without any problems, and this thing is just a pain. So here's our beginning shape again. Here's our first keyframe, and it's out of place. So I'm going to mess around with the tracking. There's got to be a better way to do this because this is ridiculous. If you wanted to be efficient, this is certainly not the way. Now this is for animating a window, this whole right click for shape animation. If you needed to animate a window over time, if you were masking something out, this is tedious because it's just a tiny line. So I'm probably going to try to come up with a more efficient method here. I've tried tracking it first and then feeding the tracker info in, and I've gotten it to move a little, but not really replicate what I want it to do. So I'll probably call it there for the live stream. That way you guys aren't watching me suffer through trying to get this thing to work, but I don't see any viewers on anyway, so that's about it. I'll probably end it here and keep going. I'll make a video on this once I get some more progress. So that's about it. I don't know. Thought I'd just go live instead of fighting through video. I've been trying to get this thing to work for a little bit along with other stuff, but that's it. So I'll talk to you guys on the next one, and I'll update you with a decent video when I get something a little more show worthy. All right, thanks for watching.